Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL podcast. And on today's pod, Clayton Fernandez is with me to talk a little bit of England after last night's thriller against Bosnia and Herzegovina. How are you, Clates?
I'm good. I'm good. I only caught 20 minutes of last night and I've kind of read up, caught up about it, but I'm still very excited for the Euros,
What
despite the narratives out there.
what 20 minutes did you catch? Because most of it was shit, mate.
So I caught the first 20, which going off match reports and stuff seems like it was the worst 20. Sounds like the second half picked up quite nicely.
I don't know. The first half dragged pretty badly, and then second half was more akin with what we expect. Think you're absolutely damned in these friendlies before tournaments. You
Yeah.
really are. From the player's perspective, obviously there's a keenness to impress individually for people like Eze's, Madison, these kind of creative fair players. There's a real intent to show individuality, but also be part of a team in terms of what you're doing. But no one wants to get injured.
Yeah.
We're carrying a lot of players who have got injuries at the moment, and you're damned if you kind of do batter someone and damned if you don't. Because if we'd have been breathtaking last night and won 6-0, everyone would be getting carried away this morning. I remember beating Jamaica 6-0 in 2006 at Old
That
Trafford. And it could have been
Crouchy
like,
scored, right?
yeah, he got actually, it could have been like 10. And it was like, yeah, the golden generation is definitely coming home. We didn't even score 6 in the 5 games at the tournament, I don't think. Um, so you can get carried away if they do too well. This was a nice balance where it ended nicely with the late goals to give the scoreline a sort of, okay, yeah, they expected England to win about 3-0 last night. And everybody could just kind of push away the first half. Plus, it was largely a second string
Yeah.
team that
This was very
started the
much
game.
having a look at people that are trying to force their way in, right?
Yeah, and I think there's information we picked up last night. I think the game was useful because we'll see some of that. I think particularly maybe in the first and the third games in the group, in Serbia and Slovenia, where we'll face periods at least of playing against that sort of team who just doesn't want to step out and come out. Those two teams particularly would be very happy with a draw. And I think even reflecting on the semi-final with Denmark from 3 years ago, that we'll have periods where the game's like that against Denmark as well. And we'll have to be patient.
Yeah.
And I think the frustration last night was with England, the lack of fluidity within the team. System seemed fairly rigid. It was very much 4-2-3-1. There wasn't too much movement from that. Little bit from Palmer and Bowen interchanging from central and right, but not too much. And we didn't move the ball quick enough.
Yeah, but I think my flip side to that is how many times has that specific 11 played together? Like,
Wooded, never.
yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's ever going to be
You'll have
so fluid.
relationships in that team, even if you break down to say Trippier and Eze or Konsa and Bowen, who there's no relationship has been built there particularly. Even Gallagher and Trent, essentially. Like
Yeah.
Gallagher was better once Adam Wharton came on, ironically. I thought Gallagher finished the game much stronger. He was getting better and better
Okay.
with
Uh,
each phase of play as the game went on, but he looked better next to Adam Wharton. We'll talk about Adam Wharton certainly.
sure.
But yeah, we shouldn't read too much into that in terms of the performance and what that means for the tournament, because it's largely a second team. And when some of the more experienced players came on, like Kane towards the end, you saw the difference. I think a lot of this conversation is what now? Southgate supposedly has got to submit his squad an hour after the game against Iceland on Friday night
Ah,
to
okay.
UEFA. Now that can then change, I believe. If you've got someone who then gets injured, I think
Yeah.
it's up to maybe 24 hours before our first game, which is then over a week later because our first game's on the Sunday evening.
Yeah.
Then
I'm
you
gonna
can
be there for
still
that one,
change it.
James.
Oh, you're out in Deutschland for it, are you?
I've got the Serbia ticket, yeah.
Nice. Where's the Serbia game?
Schalke.
Okay. Eurostar.
Yes, sir.
Good
Eurostar
lads.
indeed.
Into Cologne.
No, we're going via Brussels. I can't even remember where we're
Yeah,
going into.
Brussels and then
My mate,
Cologne.
my mate sorted it, so probably Cologne, yeah.
If you are going to the west of Germany, where a lot of England games are, I do recommend going on the Eurostar. Yes, go to Brussels and then get the train to Cologne is a good way of doing it, particularly if you don't like flying. And it's easy enough to get beers on a
I've
train,
just checked
etc.
my I've just
They
checked
don't
my
mind
calendar.
out there.
You are correct. It is Cologne. Yeah, just check the
Yeah,
train.
I've done it. I've done it.
He's-
My club has been in Europe before. I'm very jealous. If you decide you don't want to go, let me know because I'll happily take your ticket and take your train tickets as well, mate. I think a lot of the discussion points today focus now on the 11
Mm,
key concerns, and also picking that final squad. I think in terms of the starting 11, if everyone's fit, there's probably maybe sort of three spots up for grabs, I
yeah,
think. So left back, left wing, maybe,
and then
and the central midfield.
exactly, yeah. And I was quite confident a couple of weeks ago in what I thought he would go with, whereas now, ah, realistically, you are looking at like a Mainu or a Palmer, dare I say, a potential Foden, Grealish not starting. I'm like, bloody hell, it's crazy. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
not a
mean,
bad thing.
when you and I did the pod in March, and at that point we thought it was only going to be 23 players.
Yeah,
We were talking about leaving out some players who are now definitely going to go, and saying this is ridiculous. Some of the attacking players you've got to leave out, and there's still going to be some ridiculous ones are going to get left out. I think it's really important that people don't obsess over, oh, we've got to pick the best 11 against Serbia in game one,
yeah.
and
It's a
people
tournament.
will.
There's more than one game. There's different, like you said, some teams we're gonna have to get used to. They don't want to play for a while, so that will require certain attributes and players versus teams where there's more space. Yeah, I agree with that.
I'd rather we land with the best team later in the tournament than
Me
start
too.
with it and get weaker as it goes on. So I think like we all want Phil Foden in the team, for example. Don't get your knickers in a twist if he doesn't start against Serbia. Would be my take. There's every chance that he will, right? But I think what we'd ascertained even months ago was, and a lot of people feel this, Foden's probably going to have to play on the left
Yeah.
to fix him into this setup because it's going to be Bellingham at 10. It's almost definitely going to be Saka on the right. Saka, by the way, was available last night. He's not injured. Southgate said that they were working on a program with him of recuperation, and it landed that the game last night was part of a recuperation day for him. So he is training, he's fine and stuff, and he'll certainly be involved Friday. Some of the others who missed out are not going to be available on Friday. That includes Luke Shaw.
Mm.
What's your take on this, mate? Because it's not played for, it's about 3.5 months now.
Yeah, and this is what I was trying to Google, like to try and get a rough timeline, but can't really find anything clear. But obviously, we spoke off air before this, and I can just steal what you said essentially. Like, because we've now got the ability to take 26, not 23, I would take him if there is an intent, not an intention, a chance that he could be fit for the knockout rounds. Because even what you said, like if we win the group, we then play the third place team in another group, then it's what you said about you don't need to start the tournament with your strongest 11, but get stronger as you go. And I think we can win the group with a Trippier at left back. And then if Shaw is fit to come back, absolutely slot him in. So I would take him if there's a chance he can be fit for the knockout rounds.
Well, we could win the group with almost anyone at left back.
Kind of.
That's not to say me or you, but I mean
Yeah.
from the actual squad of players that could technically play there. You're saying, oh, Ezri Konsa's going to end up playing left back. England can't win the group. Well, that's not the case, is it? So, yeah, I said to you offline that I think if Southgate thinks Luke Shaw can be fit for a quarter final, he'll take him.
Yeah.
Quarter final is a month away.
It's a long time.
So, if you can build up to get him ready for that, then I think that's what they'll do. So I don't think it has to be, oh, is he? He's already like an obsession. Well, if he's not going to be fit for Serbia, don't take him. It's too much for a risk.
Yeah.
It might be a bigger risk not to take him because once we face better teams later in the tournament, if we're fortuitous enough to get that far, I think most of us would want Luke Shaw at left back with what
100%.
we've got. Obviously, he's not taken another orthodox left back in the
No.
whole 33 players
So
that he's got.
with the squad right now, who could fit in there? So obviously Trippier, Konsa, we said.
Gomez,
Oh yeah, Gomez, that's the other one, yeah.
possibly Branthwaite.
Yeah.
There is one more that I want to throw as an idea to you.
Can I guess?
You know the answer because I've covered it on other pods.
Oh, okay, Trent.
No,
Oh.
no. I mean, yeah, that was asked on our Patreon Q&A on Monday, and I wondered if he might try it. I didn't think he would, but I said don't rule it out. But I think if he was going to try it, he'd have done that last night. There was no suggestion of having fullbacks move into midfield. I think Trent naturally did it on occasion once he moved to right back in the second half, but it wasn't like a planned tactical outlet that you're going to have a fullback move into midfield. No, I think he wants to keep the back four fairly defensive and push one up on occasion and shove the team. Now, the other one is Saka, mate.
Oh yeah. I think in an emergency, yeah, we know he can do that, but
All right, let me sell it to you like this. Would you rather play Saka at left back or Konsa at left back?
Konsa because of what you then lose in the final third.
But are you losing it if it means, say, Cole Palmer starts on the right or
Yeah,
Jared Bowen starts on the right?
yeah, fair point. Probably not, to be fair. But I then think you are taking out one of your star players in a natural position to kind of shoehorn another problem.
But it also fixes the problem of how do we get Foden off the left wing to move into central areas, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I get the kind of theory behind it. I'd be very surprised if he did that though.
But we don't know from last night if that's something he'd consider or not. He played Saka at left wing back against Italy in the Nations League, and it
Yeah.
didn't go great. And it's worth saying England played a back three then. And since that really bad period in the Nations League, haven't touched back to it. I think Southgate now feels that the team is strong enough with a back four that it's going to stick with that, right? I think a lot of us thought before the France quarterfinal in the World Cup we'd move to a back three because we were now playing an elite opponent. He didn't, right? So I think the back four is for keeps.
Yeah.
That makes it a little less likely. But I don't think we should necessarily rule it out as something that might get looked at again, particularly against some of these teams where, with respect to the opponent last night, they treated the game pretty seriously. They were time wasting and stuff, even though it was a
Yeah.
friendly. So from that perspective, it was a good test. Could you get away with playing Saka left back against that sort of opponent?
Yeah, of course you could.
You
Yeah.
can.
I just think the other thing though is like we haven't seen it for like 3, 4 years, right? Like when he did that, it was when he was first breaking through the Arsenal first team. So I can't remember the last time I've seen. I think there was one game mid-game he went left back for Arsenal, but can't remember when it was. But yeah, I'd be surprised.
No,
But
I
you're
think
right, you can't rule it out.
it's fairly obvious as it stands that he'll play Trippier at left back. We have to remember from last night there was so many players not involved who were definitive in the first choice 11, basically. So I think of the 9 players not involved last night, 7 of them would be highly likely to be in the first 11. So that's Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw, Bellingham, Foden, Saka. The other 2 might even be in it, which is Anthony Gordon
Yeah.
and Kobe Mino.
Hmm.
Um, the central pairing last night of Trent and Gallagher, I didn't feel worked great as a partnership. As I said, Gallagher looked much better when Adam Wharton came on. You won't have seen Wharton last night because
No, but
you didn't watch second half.
I think he's a brilliant player though. His ball
I mean,
progression.
he massively impressed Clates
Yeah.
to the extent now because it's a 26, you'd be massively tempted to take him.
Yeah.
I think he 100% pass completion. And do you know what he does? It's so simplistic. Every pass is in front.
Yeah, that's
He
what
never passes to someone's feet. It's always in
okay.
front. So he's telling the player how
It's
he
got an
passes the ball.
instruction on it.
I don't want to compare him to Modric, right? But this is what Modric, when you watch him when he passes the ball, and I realize it's kind of towards the end now, but he dictates the tempo of what the next player is going to do by where he passes the ball. Right?
Yeah.
It's behind you to feet, retain. It's in front of you, carry forward. That's what Adam Wharton is like in terms of his distribution. And again, it's really difficult to judge last night because the opponent just sat off and went, "You play, do
Yeah.
your thing," and he looked great. You're looking at him. I'm watching him last night, and he's not English. Check that birth
It's like
certificate
Spanish.
a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah. That's what I
yeah.
thought when I've seen him at Palace, to be fair. I think he's brilliant.
I had a really I had a couple of DMs shared with. I might as well reveal this now because I should have on yesterday's podcast. But our new Fulham correspondent Lewis James, and he was at the game last night, and we were messaging afterwards. And he was saying like Wharton does the simple things really, really well. It's just so effective in terms of his moving of the ball. It's like pass, move, pass, move. But what I said back to Lewis was I said Gallagher does the simple things really well as well, but just not the ones that you think of, like the
It's the
dirty
off the
stuff.
ball stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Wharton is what I would call a middle third footballer. So give him the ball, we go and play. We move it side to side. That's what I mean, kind of that's a Spanish element
Hmm.
a little bit. Whereas Gallagher is this all-action player who gets stronger as the game goes on, and I think is possibly more befitting as a more natural partner to other players.
Okay.
So even for Wharton, having Gallagher's legs to do the bits in the boxes, and obviously never had to go back into the defensive box, but you can trust Conor Gallagher will do that for you, would be suitable as a partner for him.
So while we're talking about it, and I'm sure this is something you want to mention later, but I want your opinion on it. The midfield, obviously Rice picks himself, Bellingham picks himself. Who do you think is the ideal third person there then? Because as an Arsenal fan, I've seen Rice this season. I think he's amazing, but I wouldn't say ball progression is one of his elite attributes. So I'm thinking there is a Wharton next to him almost better because do you need a Rice and Gallagher? Like Rice is like a Hoover himself.
Gallagher brings something really different to the setup, I think. It's just ability to run into position. He kind of looked awkward on the ball at certain points, even though
Yeah.
he's a good technical player. He had a really nice dribble and could have scored a really nice goal towards the end of the game. As I said, he got stronger and better as it went on. We've spoken a lot in the past about Calvin Phillips being a really good partner for Rice, and I think that's what this is. It's not a, oh, you want to pick Gallagher over Trent, for example. It's
No,
more of
it's
a,
who
what's
complements.
gonna be the best partner for Rice, and obviously links that into to Bellingham and whoever's playing on the right hand side as well. I think bearing in mind, Saka will probably start on the right, and he's not a player. You can put him in over the top, but he wants to show to feet.
Yeah.
You need someone who's going to run that channel. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Now, Trent can do it, but I think Trent also wants to see the game. Gallagher will make the ugly, dirty runs.
Yeah, he'll go inside and out, like regardless of if he's going to get the ball, he'll make the unselfish runs. That's a good point.
So it's not a, oh, I picked Gallagher over Trent because I think Gallagher's a better footballer than Trent. I'm not saying that. I just think Gallagher might be where it starts.
Yeah.
And it might be, okay, it's 0-0, it's half hour to go, we're really struggling, and an opponent's gone really deep. Okay, can we use Trent better in this area? It might even be as shown last night. It'd be right. Okay, we're really worried about the counter attack because they've gone so deep, but they've got quick players up front. Can we move Walker in the centre back and put Trent at right back? It might even be those sort of things later in the game.
Mm.
But in terms of which one he'll pick, I'm not sure. It could easily still be Kobe Mino.
Yeah.
He won't start with Warren.
No, it's just the way we
I'd be
talk about.
amazed. But he has come from nowhere. When we did the pod in March, we did mention him. We were talking about if he didn't take Henderson, what was the sort of players, and we mentioned Adam Wharton in passing, which went, that'd be too soon.
Yeah, exactly. But the way he's progressed in literally 2, 3 months, it's been ridiculous.
I'd probably take him because I don't think there's another profile player like him.
I would take him 100%. It's just that starting slot, the irony of me saying like don't get too wedded to the starting 11, but I'm already thinking who is going to play against Serbia? Like, is it Mainu? Is it Gallagher? Is it Wharton? I think it probably will be Gallagher, to be fair, because even he loved a Henderson type profile, didn't he? And I feel like Gallagher's probably the most similar that he can get to that.
It's probably toss a coin, I think, between Gallagher and Trent at the moment.
Gallagher and
For
Trent, so you
for
don't even
who?
think Mainu,
No, I don't think so.
no?
I think he'll definitely be in the squad, but I think it'll probably be between Gallagher and Trent. But then Kobe Mino, there's every chance he'll start Friday night against Iceland
Yeah,
with Rice because Rice didn't play
yeah,
last night. And that might be what Southgate's wanted, and to look at that as a partnership. So it might
yeah,
be that opinion changed again Friday night. It's nice that there's options in that area because we thought it was going to be a massive problem.
yeah. I was just gonna say, I'm not gonna be upset with whoever lands there because I think the balance in each dynamic will be really nice, regardless of who starts.
And again, I don't think people should obsess about this is the one that's got picked against Serbia.
Yeah, but
Um,
it
because
will
it could
happen.
change.
But
Yeah, people will. People want the
yeah,
best team on the pitch for all 90 minutes of all 7 games if we're lucky enough to get that far. But the depth in this squad, particularly in attacking areas, should mean that we largely accept that that's a flip of a coin. There's probably a good reason why he's gone with one or the other versus Serbia, and it might be that he goes with a different one against Denmark. He might be more
yeah,
worried about Denmark on turnovers and thinks I'll go with Gallagher rather than Trent, maybe.
possibly,
Or
yeah,
he might think we're all I think, we can spread the play better and quicker against Denmark. I want Trent. There might be reasons why it's one or the other. And it might be that just my nose is the better fit. From that pod in March, I was desperate for him to be in. And
yeah,
I was pretty gutted when he was left out the squad. Um, and he worked his way in a couple of days after the squad, didn't he? And then he's
yeah.
playing, and everyone, yeah, that's where he's here to
Now
start,
it
isn't he?
seems like a no-brainer, if I could say that.
Yeah. You weren't convinced then.
I
I
wasn't,
think you
no.
probably are now.
100%, yeah.
Left wing, I mean, there's so many options there. You could play Foden, you could play Grealish, you could play Eze, you
Are
could
you
play
concerned
Gordon.
about the lack of like a direct running winger, or do you think Gordon could kind of
That's
be
why I
that
think Gordon is
profile?
an absolute certainty that it'll be in the squad. I
Yeah.
would not be surprised if Anthony Gordon starts against Serbia.
Yeah, neither would I, to be fair. Just because what you said about Saka on the right as well, in terms of likes to kind of take it into feet, shut back to goal sort of thing, then I feel like on the left you need someone that is a bit more direct.
I think Anthony Gordon will be an important player for England in this tournament. I
I
think
do as well.
Southgate really likes him. I think his directness will be important. Might be a player that's even really useful off the bench potentially. Perhaps even when we're winning a game to carry the team back up the pitch against better opponents. Yeah, I think Gordon's a shoe-in.
But even there, the profiles you just spoke about, if you think of Foden, Grealish, Eze, Gordon, all of their profiles are slightly different. I think it's great. It gives us the ability to tackle like different scenarios and challenges that we'll be up against.
I don't think he's left Rashford out to not take Gordon.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
agree.
think when we did the pod in March, we probably didn't think Gordon would make it. I said, look, he's
No,
got to be in
I
the
don't think I
squad,
did.
and he
Yeah.
performed pretty well. And I think that's what's convinced Southgate to say I can go without Rashford here. It was still a surprise that he left Rashford out, as it was that he left Henderson out. Particularly surprised those who he never changes, he never gives youth a chance. Mino, Wharton, Eze's, etc.
Yeah. I've
Um,
got my notes up trying to find the squad that we picked.
so it's 33 players in the squad now. There was two players who didn't get on the pitch last night, or I presume are not going to go to the tournament, and we could probably rule out from the final 26. Jarell Quansah's one, who I think he's called up to have a look at. And the fact he didn't get on the pitch last night at this stage, when he's ended up shoving Ezri Konsa around three positions, makes me think that Quansah's not going to go.
Yeah.
I assume it will be similar for Curtis Jones, who was a player we didn't mention on that podcast in March, but I'd been saying previously plenty of times I want him in this squad because I really like him. But we ruled him out then because we didn't think he'd be fit.
Yeah.
And yet Southgate still called him up to have a look. But again, the fact he didn't get on the pitch last night, I think those two aren't going to go.
Yeah.
But Watson's got himself ahead of Jones. I think it would be fair to say if one of them was going to go.
Yeah. Probably would be Wharton at this stage. Yeah.
So Quance and Jones aren't going to go. I think it's probably fair to say that takes us down to 31. Which goalkeeper's going to get cut? Do you think it's going to be
Who?
Pickford, Ramsdale, and then one of Henderson or Trafford, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Which one do you think gets cut?
Trafford? No,
Probably.
yeah, it's hard.
You know, I'm a big Dean Henderson fan. Although I would
He
acknowledge,
improved, to be fair.
I think actually he had a pretty good end of the season with Crystal
Yeah,
Palace.
because
Actually,
I don't really rate him that highly, but I thought he did well at the end as well. Yeah, I think it probably is Trafford that will get cut, to be fair.
yeah, I think it probably will be because of what we discussed in March about concerns about Ramsdale not playing enough. And it might even be that Henderson pushes Ramsdale for the number 2 shirt,
Yeah,
whereas Trafford won't. I think that might be the deciding factor. And we'd mentioned that back in March. I think there's a couple of defenders have definitely added themselves into the 5 that we knew were going to go defensively. So Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw, and Trippier, shoo-ins. Konsa's in now.
yeah. I can't remember if we picked. I feel like I didn't
No,
pick him back then.
we didn't even talk about him, mate.
Oh,
We
really?
didn't even talk about him.
I feel like he's a shoo-in now. Yeah,
What he is because he's shown last night right back, left back, right sided centre back, covered a
yeah,
lot. You know what he is? He looks completely unflustered.
yeah. He's
He
very
strikes me as the
calm.
sort of player who can raise an intensity level based on what he's playing against.
Yeah,
He isn't flustered. He's not, I would describe him as not comfortable as an offensive right back, but also he might be the profile of player that's closest to a defensive right back if we lost Carl Walker, which is
yeah.
madness
No, it's not madness.
when the
That makes
amount of
sense.
right backs, all the Trent, Trips, Reece James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, all the arguments we've had there down the years, we might all them right backs we might end up with a centre back at right back. Would be quite ironic, and a right back at left back. Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, it's his
Um,
versatility. I
he's
think
in.
it's the kind of conversation we used to justify Gomez's inclusion, right?
Yeah. Well, based on last night, Constance ahead of Gomez.
Yeah.
Mark Gay's in.
Yeah, because I
Our
think
our
fitness was,
our big concern when we did the pod in March was, is he going to be fit?
yeah,
And he didn't even get used for Crystal Palace in the running, but he looked fine last night. Again, not tested. He gave one really dodgy ball away in the
I
first
saw
half where he
that on
tried
the
to play a pass in
highlights.
the Trent
Yeah,
that was bad. But otherwise, he's another one. I think he'll play the game the same way, irrespective of the opponent. I think he's not the sort of one. I think he'll get nervous
no,
if he makes errors. It's because he makes errors. But I think he's a steady one who, prior to the March internationals, think back to the autumn, he built himself in to be, I think, the first choice cover for Maguire or Stones. And I think Southgate's leaning back to that.
sure.
So I think Mark Gay and Ezri Konsa will go. That's seven defenders.
Think no Lewis Dunk then?
I think he'll go.
Yeah,
I think Joe Gomez will go as well. And I
okay.
think Branthwaite will probably miss out.
So 9 defenders then.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
because of the Shaw problem.
yeah.
Lewis Dunk, he really likes. I think the concern, the big thing with Lewis Dunk is he should have been in and around this team 4 years ago. And I don't think he's at the level that he was at a couple of years ago. And there's real concerns if he gets isolated by pace. But then we've always had that concern about Maguire playing for England, and it's never actually proven to be too much of an issue
Not really,
when
no.
playing for England. So at this stage, the amount Lewis Dunk's been used, I think it would be a surprise. I said in March that actually profile-wise, there were comparisons to Maguire and Stones, which is why he likes him as an all-rounder that could sit in for either. And I think Joe Gomez versatility might just get him in as well, but he's really borderline now. I
Yeah, I was
think
gonna say he's not. Oh, go
Joe
on.
Gomez is probably, are you going to take nine defenders or eight? And if it's eight, Joe Gomez might not go.
Yeah, because he's not really been used that much, has he?
No, I think as well though, if you don't take him and he doesn't take Branthwaite as well, and if Shaw doesn't recover,
Then you're cutting
you're
it
you're
fine.
literally down to Trippier and probably Konsa as the cover at left back.
Yeah.
And I think that's too
Yeah,
much.
and I'm pretty confident he will go short, unless it's like confirmed Shaw's going to miss the whole tournament. I'm pretty confident as well that he'll go short. So as a result, needs to go for another
Under that
contingency.
circumstance, I think he's pretty much thinking at the moment Trippier's got to play left back for me.
Yeah,
So unbelievably, we've landed in a situation where Southampton Walker, Ezri Konsa is probably playing right back here, despite all the right backs we've had available over the years. It just
possibly.
feels
Yeah,
weird. It's nothing against Ezri Konsa. It just feels weird.
yeah. Fair
So I think
play.
Joe Gomez is borderline. Konsa's going to go. Gay's going to go. I think Dunk will probably go, but we'll probably see little involvement.
Yeah,
Joe
harsh
Gomez
on
is
Branthwaite,
borderline.
but it's just that the level of the squad is so good.
Rice, Gallagher, and Trent will go.
Yep,
I think we're assuming at this stage Kobe Minor goes, surely.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
I think he'll take Adam Wharton now.
Yeah, he talks yourself into it now.
Yeah, I just think,
English Xavi.
I mean, when we went through our squads in March, you just wanted to go with like Rice, Gallagher, Trent in midfield. I was like, hell, Clates,
Yeah,
what if
I
Rice
just
gets injured?
was literally looking at my notes like, what was I doing?
And I think Wharton offers just a little something where you could look at a certain scenario and go, he'd be great use for us in extra time with his
Big
ball
time.
retention and the way he can change the tempo of play and stuff. And I think that's all he would be.
I think that's the major thing in tournament football is the ability to change tempos. And I think that is like that could be a little cheat code that we unearth at a major tournament.
Yeah, I don't see how anybody could have looked at that last night and not been impressed with him. But it comes with a caveat that the opposition was knackered and was offering nothing. And we
Yeah.
don't know what that looks at when he's got to, oh, Florian Wirtz is off his shoulder in a semi-final or something like that. Do you
Yeah,
know what
but
I
is
mean?
he likely to be playing then? Probably not. Again, it's like
Probably not.
different
And it's
scenarios, right?
also, I think, if it was a 23-man squad, he had no chance.
Yeah.
But if it's on a 26, I think there's a case to take him rather than you. Okay, you're going to leave out a big attacking player instead.
Like
But
who?
how much minutes was the extra attacking player gonna? I've got Wharton now in, and for me, that's still taking nine attackers
Okay.
to cover across four positions, even with Wharton in as well, and with nine defenders. That three extra positions,
It's a game changer.
and it's, to be honest, I know Southgate was dead against it, previously because he feels that's too many players. So if you have like an 11v11, right, you've got four players doing what? That's kind of the take on that sort of thing. But I think because of the injury issues around certain players, this time it's proved very useful.
Yeah.
And it might allow us to take a player in Adam Wharton, who I think, yeah, particularly like in an extra time scenario, could be really useful to us.
And also, I think a player like that at that age, like if he doesn't get that much game time, I don't think he's going to be the sort of player kicking up a fuss and stuff as well.
No, of course not.
Yeah,
He's going. Why would he? He'd be
exactly. So
thrilled.
like, yeah, so
He'd be
I think it
absolutely
makes
thrilled.
sense.
It just being in the squad, he'd be walking on water, and I'm sure he's walking on water this morning with the way he played last night. Because as I said, anybody who saw it would have gone, "Oh, that's a footballer." I'd said after we did the pod in March, I can't remember what Palace game I watched, but I said to Suj, he's an absolute certainty to be in the England squad in September
Oh
because
wow.
I just
Okay.
thought it had been too late now for
Yeah.
this one. As it is a certainty. As soon as that tournament finished, it'd be in the squad and it'd be close to the team. It's just transpired that he's now in.
Yeah.
Um, Attacking players, Bellingham, Saka, Foden, Kane, obviously. I think
Hmm.
we assume Cole Palmer is a certainty
Yeah.
now. I've got Bowen in, Gordon in, Grealish in, Watkins in.
Can't disagree with any of them. The
That means
Rashford one was a big surprise to me, to be fair.
that means no Madison, no Eze, no Tony.
Yeah, Madison, I get. Eze's a tough one. It's just like at this point, I feel like I'm flipping a coin. Tony, I prefer to take a Watkins type profile instead of to add to a Kane rather than Tony as well.
I just think with Madders, the big thing against him, against all those other, not the nines, but the other attacking players, all the others can play a couple of different positions.
Yeah, whereas he's almost like a
Um,
specialist
Other than
10, right?
maybe Saka, although James thinks there's a small chance he might get used at left back, is right wing. But all the others you could dip into a couple of different. So I think to myself, what if something happened to Jude? What do you want to do in the 10 position? Oh, well, Madison's the backup. Do you not want to play Foden
I'd
there if
still
that
rather
happens?
put Foden there, even
And then
Palmer
and then
maybe.
arguably Palmer ahead as
Yeah,
well. And then you still got Saka on the right. And that's why I think he doesn't make it.
yeah, it's almost too much of a luxury, right?
Foden can cover any attacking position, even including the nine, in my opinion, and could play deeper if we're chasing a game. I don't think Southgate wants to use him deeper. Madison, it doesn't work left, right, or deeper. None of them is 10.
Yeah,
It's just 10, really. That's why I think he'll miss out. Eze, I just look at it and I think Foden, Gordon, and Grealish are definitely going to go.
yeah,
And Eze's spot in the squad at the moment feels like it's from the left.
yeah. Well, that's why he started yesterday, right?
And even not putting Madison in, I'm not like, oh, I need to take Eze as a backup 10 as well. I think I love him. I absolutely adore him as a player. But I thought about it more and the fact that Palmer had been used centrally last night. And I think that probably gives Bowen the nod over Eze.
Yeah.
Bowen's got a little bit more experience playing for England. I think he's largely played quite well when he's played for England. And he's a natural go and play on the right. And also emergency is another one. Could play right through the middle as your centre
Yeah.
forward as well.
Yeah. Good point.
So I think it might be Bowen over Eze.
Yeah, the logic you just outlined makes sense. Like to the point where the way you've illustrated it, I'm like, oh yeah, even I would choose that as
E-
harsh
E-
as it is on Eze.
Eze is the one I'm like, I don't like that. Can we take 27?
That's it. It's like, can we take 27 more than I would take him instead of one of the others you've mentioned? Just because I think the logic checks out in terms of how we're
Well,
stacked at the
well,
left, what
you
Bowen
can put
means
him
as well.
in and you don't take Wharton or you don't take the extra cover defensively.
I do not want to risk the cover defensively. Uh, that's a tough one when you frame it like that, the Eze or Wharton. I think Wharton is potentially going to be of more use to us than Eze
And I
because
think
of the options available.
what changed last night watching that was making people see that Adam Wharton could be useful, not just he's just a filler because we can't call anyone else
Yeah.
up. It's actually looking at him going, this player could be quite handy for us in certain scenarios here, rather than, oh, we need to take him for cover. He might actually be a proper use for us. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, let's say he starts with Foden on the left and he wants to take Foden off. What's he what's he going to bring on? Is it Grealish or is it Eze? It's probably
It's
Grealish.
Grealish, of course it is, yeah.
Or it's Andy Gordon instead as well.
Yeah, and I like you. I think he's going to use Gordon quite a lot in this
Yeah,
tournament.
I do as well. So I don't think Eze makes it.
No, which is a shame, but it's just the quality in this squad is absolutely absurd.
The other thing I'd be quite tempted to do to force Eze in is not take Watkins.
So yeah, I would not even consider that personally.
I don't think it's working for him.
Who, Watkins?
This, yeah, I think that's a couple of games now where when Kane came on last night, it was a different level, mate.
Yeah,
Different level. Um, I don't quite know the reason why, because it's not like there aren't creative players like Eze, Palmer, Bowen behind him last night, but it just didn't work as a link. And listen, it might be that it's Bellingham,
what
Foden,
was it that
Saka, and
wasn't
that's
working?
better.
Because obviously I didn't see the full 90, right?
I don't know. Maybe I think it might be a part that because the opposition was so defensive, the pitch was really small for him in terms of trying to find space because
Okay,
we just dominated the whole game in terms of ball and stuff like that. So I think there's that. But I also think when I've watched him for Villa, I think his link up and his hold up play has improved dramatically this year. He's not just become like an in behind channel runner, merchant,
yeah,
and a finisher. His finishing has improved, but his link play has become really, really good. I've not seen it in the game last night and the
okay,
England game in March that he played as well. I didn't think it went great for him, but presumably he's ahead of Tony at this moment because I presume now Kane will start on Friday night.
yeah.
So there's little to no minutes for Tony. Watkins is ahead of Tony. Tony is the better profile cover for Kane than Watkins.
He is,
We
but that's
also
what.
all feel like Ollie Watkins deserves to be in the squad. No one's questioning that.
Yeah, mine is kind of twofold though. It's I'm not even thinking on like who deserves it. It's I prefer having an alternative profile than the same personally.
I understand. But Watkins isn't going to play with Kane.
No, that's a good.
Even if
Mm,
scenario, right? We're losing to France in a semi-final, we're 1-0 down, whatever, right? And we're chasing a goal. Does he bring Watkins on, or does he bring on someone like Gordon to move a Foden inside? Or it might be that it's still one of those attacking mids or Palmers or someone like that, rather than, oh, let's put Watkins up front with Kane and
I don't
drop
know,
Kane deeper.
I could see him going and putting both of them together if we need a goal. I think they would work quite well together as well.
My opinion, as I said in March, would be if something happened to Harry, I would play Phil Foden as
You would
a
still
false
do that,
nine,
yeah?
essentially. Yeah. Yeah,
What do you
that's
think
what I would want to
Southgate
do.
would do? Do you think he would just go Watkins?
But I also think it does feel like madness to have a 26-man squad and only take 1-9. Does also feel like madness because you will
Yeah,
want
that is
someone that's going to
bonkers.
be a point for you of reference, and I get that. Um, I just don't feel like it's really happening for him against some opponents where it probably should have. And we've seen him play what Brazil and
Yeah, who's the
obviously
other?
Bosnia last night. So you've got two very different opponents there, and in both games it didn't feel right.
Hmm.
But he'll go. I'm pretty confident, and I
I think there's like,
love
obviously
what
it's a
he's done this
very
season.
small sample size, right? Like international football. Do you think there's a chance it could have just been two off
Yeah, of course,
games?
of course. Lots of things. Nervousness is
Yeah.
possibly also for him. It must be quite difficult for him. Let's say he got 5 goals last night. That make a difference. He still ain't starting.
Yeah, because and also what you said
That's
at the
probably
start of the
quite a
pod.
tough position to be in.
Yeah, and what you said at the start of the pod, a lot of these players, specifically him, like he knows that is the one position where you're not getting a look into. Like he's probably trying a bit too hard to impress and stuff.
Yeah, there's no question on his work, his ethic, or anything. I think, like I said, last night was probably particularly difficult for him because space was really difficult to find. But then once Harry came on, he was just finding it all over the place, mate. And again, I
Yeah,
recognised the team, as was the case for Wharton, the opposition was kind of out on its feet by that stage. But as soon as Harry came on, it was night and day, mate,
yeah,
the difference. And that was a little worrying for Watkins, I think.
interesting.
And Kane's not played for a month.
Yeah.
And it was there instantly. Like, oh, okay, yeah. If I had any doubt, within 2 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, we need
So
Harry Kane up front. It was quite
if
clear.
you're of the mindset that you think he won't play the two together, Kane and Watkins, why
Right.
wouldn't Southgate then take a Tony who is more similar in profile? On the off chance Kane, like I don't know, something happens, he gets injured or something.
think arguably Tony is a better fit for this team.
So why wouldn't he take him then?
Ivan Tony also hasn't scored for 2 months, and Ollie Watkins has been absolutely sensational this season. He's got like nearly 40 goal returns or something.
Yeah.
Um,
So you think it is just on, I say just on, like it is deserved because of his campaign, but you think it's primarily because of that, as opposed to like he's the best
certain
fit for this
players,
squad.
yeah, certain players, for whatever reason, work at international football and others don't. Like a perfect example case with Darius Vassell, right?
Yeah.
It was never great for Aston Villa,
Villa legend.
really. But for England, he was like first choice backup to like Owen and Rooney for like a 4 year period. And everyone was right with it. And he scored important goals for England. Um, and everyone just went, well, he's all right for England. It doesn't matter. Danny Welbeck's another one, might be a good
Yeah.
example. He's been in and out of things, but was always really reliable when he played for England. Um, and that's why Danny Welbeck is a great example, kept getting picked by different managers and stuff. Yeah, I can't see Watkins getting minutes in the tournament. So I almost feel like, well, what's the point?
What's
If
the
you want
point?
someone to drift and be a great ball carrier and be exactly what Eze is that going to be of more use to you in certain circumstances than a Watkins who isn't going to play basically unless we win the first two group games
Yeah, and then
and
he'll
have won the
give Kane a
group and he
rest.
wants to change the team for the third group game?
Yeah, like I said, I think there's scenarios where I could see the two of them playing together, which I think he'll go with him because he's kind of going for that alternative profile to Kane. But
Yeah, it's also simple logic. Could you imagine if Kane got injured and he hasn't taken Watkins or Sony and what the reaction would be?
oh yeah, no, no. So for what it's worth, I'm not saying like if Watkins doesn't go, he should take Eze. I think if Watkins doesn't go, it should be Tony. But I'm more interested in because I haven't for once considered that Watkins shouldn't go. But then obviously I didn't see the game yesterday and the concerns you brought up. So
So
it's good conversation.
with Eze, I was having a thought process in the first half. I was trying to ask myself, what would be the reason at this stage not to take Eze over Grealish? Was a point of reference I was wondering. And I think that position on the left isn't best for him. You'd rather him get into more central areas. But I think from there, there's almost an acceptance that if Saka plays on the right, he'll hold the touchline so much. Whoever plays on the left probably will be able to go and get involved. Jude Bellingham essentially played on the left in the first half for Real Madrid in the Champions League final, and he found himself on the right. It's not a problem. So you can still do that sort of thing. But once Jack came on, Jack was really good when he came on the last half hour. He was doing all the things that you really like about Jack Grealish. One of the real criticism of Jack these days is that he's really safe.
Mm.
Like Guardiola's coached the flare out of him, basically. And he's really safe. But what he does is he absorbs pressure so well and he doesn't give it away. And he
Yeah,
keeps it and he'll win you free kicks and stuff. It's not like an Eze won't. But Grealish absorbs space to allow other people to do their thing. People don't want to be one on one with Jack, so they know they can't get the ball off him. So he's always drawing two, and then you're back and you horseshoe and you go. And with Eze, he's just a little bit loose in what he does.
okay.
Like I love him. I described him recently on a podcast as probably the most enjoyable player in the league to watch
Yeah,
from a neutral perspective. But Eze's a little bit more erratic in his carrying because he just tries more things.
yeah,
Whereas that's been lost from Grealish's game, but that still has real strengths on Grealish. And also, if we are going to end up playing with a right footer at left back, which is probably going to be the case for probably at least half this tournament, it
yeah,
looks like at the moment, someone holding that touchline who can absorb is possibly going to be more useful for you.
yeah.
So when a right footer ends up going left, okay, he's always there and he will always be
And
there. And I
especially
think
like what you've said
that
about the
gives him an
types of
advantage.
opponents as well. If they're teams that are 60 to 80% of the time going to be parking the bus, trying to hit us on the counter, you want players that can kind of reduce the amount of transitions that we're going to have, right? And if someone like Grealish is there to absorb and retain the ball, then yeah, that makes sense.
You need two teams here because England will face a lot of defensive setup because the players we've got offensively now create so much fear that people don't want to overcommit against us.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I'll probably tell you now that we're going to have a game in the group stage that's going to be 0-0 or 1-1, and people will feel like it's the end of the world.
What's your prediction? Which game? Don't
I
say
wouldn't, I
Serbia.
would, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Um, it's not how we start, kids. It's how we at the finish is more important. If we draw with Serbia, it's a disaster. No,
No,
you
it's
probably
not
need to
great.
win one of three games to get out the group. It's not a big deal. Um, but I'm sure that probably won't be the case and be fine. We'll probably win two, draw one, win the group, go through, and it won't be great. I think the opponents we've got leads to you're probably not going to get like what we got against Iran, for example. You're not going to get that. You are going to get a USA game in the group. Like, accept it now
Yeah.
that there's going to be a game and you go, wait, this team's got no chance of winning it. And then we well beat Senegal and we give France a proper game and everyone's dreaming. And you'll have those flip-flop moments, no doubt about it. You need a team that's going to be able to beat these teams that set up really defensively.
Hmm.
And you're going to need a different team that when it at a key moment, if it advances, then hits a France or playing effectively an away game against a Germany or a Spain or a Portugal or something like that, that's going to have to play differently and thinks more about that way than
Yeah.
what goes backwards. And that's why the versatility of players like Trent and Gallagher are like complete opposites, basically. Like, you need them both in and around it, and I think both will be useful at certain different points of games.
Yeah. Agree.
You don't like leaving. If Eze's the one that misses out, I don't like that. But
I've
that's
made peace
probably
with
what I
that,
do.
if I'm being honest, just because of how stacked we are in that area.
Yeah, I think that the key to thinking that's the case is the use of where Palmer was last night.
Yeah.
That makes me think that Bowen is still going to go. And
Yeah.
Bowen's been good for England.
Is it coming home?
Well, let's see if we can deal with our 2016 nemesis in Iceland on Friday night first in front of a sellout crowd at Wembley. I'll take it you're going, Clates.
I am, sir.
Are you
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
You bother with that shit for, man. Friendly.
How do you
How
think I
much?
got a ticket to Serbia? Got to
Well, I
build up the
suppose,
caps, right?
yeah. Yeah, okay. How much ticket for Iceland?
I don't know, actually. I can't remember.
Did you
Oh,
pay for it or
what?
not? Or are you just getting
Yeah, but
freebies by
it was
Planet
months
FPL
ago.
Association? Like, where's
No,
mine?
it was months ago. I don't think it was expensive. Like 20 quid, maybe?
Oh, really? Well, that's why it's a sellout. That makes sense. Look, there's every chance. But as said in March, we need Stones fit, we need Rice fit, we need to deal with this left back problem. In spite of all the attacking players we've got, there are issues that we're going to need to deal with, which is going to be more of a problem later on. So if we can fix them as it goes on, yeah, we'll be okay. We'll be in and around it. There's a chance here. There's a
I think there's
chance.
a chance. I know we jest about
There's a
it's coming home,
chance.
but I
There's a
do think we're one
chance.
of the stronger squads.
That's not me saying we've won it. I know people get upset and it's coming home and all that. We're taking the piss out of ourselves. Covered this loads of times. Cheers, Clates. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah, nice one.
I now need to remember what we're doing tomorrow. Oh, yeah, you're joining me again, aren't you? We're doing an intro to Euro Fantasy, differences in the game to FPL. We're not going to go too much detail into some of the players, although you will all be owning Maximilian Mittelstadt. I can tell you that now. Did you just say
Who?
who? Yes, you'll find out tomorrow. We're talking about some strategy ideas. Because it's maybe not as straightforward as it might seem at first look in terms of using some of these chips. So
Okay.
yes, a little bit of James chip talk tomorrow as we do a UEFA Euro 2024 intro. Plates, thank you very much. Come on, England. Cue music, please, man. Sharp.